What is now day 2 of cleanup in Clark County?
This after an EF2 tornado wreaked havoc through neighborhoods early yesterday morning. A total of 93 properties were damaged, some even destroyed. Now here's a bird's eye view you can see in that video behind me of some of that damage from our drone. You can see that's that church's roof that was actually blown off during the storm. Lydia Bice is live for us in Clark County tonight, speaking with residents again today who are still picking up the pieces. Lydia, what did they have to tell you?
Well, if I had to choose one word to describe how these Clark County residents are handling the aftermath of this tornado, it would be resilience. Now, as you can see here, the New Beginnings Church, Fellowship Church here behind me, had its roof completely torn off and tombstones in its cemetery completely destroyed. However, I spoke to the pastor of this church and someone who has family members buried here, and they both told me that they believe it's all going to work out.
God's going to work everything out. You know, I believe that, because if not, my 43 years of preaching it, is it working if I don't believe it?
What I've learned is in the storms of life, Jesus is in the center of the storm. Amen. And so we're just thankful, and I'm thankful that nothing was wrong with their tombstones. So many people's tombstones are messed up.
Lydia, we know the Clark County Emergency Management Agency held a press conference this afternoon. So what are their next steps?
That's right. The Clark County Emergency Management Agency has what they call a care portal set up, and I've linked that in the web version of this story on Dayton247now.com. But that's where residents can go and put their contact information down and list what resources they still may need to continue the cleanup process here. Now, if anyone at home would like to make a financial donation to any of the Clark County residents that have been impacted, you can do so at Park Bank under the United Way Disaster Relief. Back to you.
Lydia, thank you. Well, the Clark County Emergency Management Agency broke down the scale of just how many people were impacted by this. 93 total properties impacted in some way by yesterday's tornado. 12 homes have major damage. 8 homes destroyed. Again, if you would like to donate to help those impacted by the tornado, you can send donations to help with food, shelter, and other needs. Head to uwccmc.org/donate. That is right there at the bottom of your screen, the Clark County Disaster Relief Fund.
And over in Madison County, cleanup efforts are also underway after that Clark County tornado crossed county lines, hitting the Madison County Airport. Now, Steve Levine is in Madison County tonight as families are sharing their relief that nobody was hurt out of this, while trying to start the process of getting their lives back to normal.
Firefighter Sean DeLong traveled from Louisville, Kentucky to help his family in this cleanup after his grandmother and aunt's second floor was ripped from their home in Wednesday's tornado.
My grandmother was downstairs, so my aunt came downstairs and couldn't get her out of bed, so she kind of laid in bed and put herself over top of her while it came over.
Family members coming together to save
hand as a Dayton Public School Board member, and gun violence takes on the community. She says recently passed legislation is harming Ohio, and she wants to change that.
But I will support and work on passing legislation in the Senate that will address the intersection of gun violence and domestic violence, legislation that will study the effects of mental health, trauma, and post-traumatic stress related to gun violence for victims, as well as the effects on the larger community.
Now, retired Chief Beal called the trend of gun violence a preventable epidemic. Now, we also want to remind you tonight that in Person and absentee voting is now underway for the March primary election. If you're mailing in your ballot, they must be postmarked by March 18th to be counted. You can vote in person at your local Board of Elections every weekday, plus the 2 Saturdays and Sunday before Election Day. If you still need to request an absentee ballot, your application must be received by 8:30 that night on March 12th. And of course, Election Day is March 19th. Polls open at 6:30 in the morning, close at 7:30 p.m. that day. You can find all the important dates and all of our election coverage all in one place at Dayton247now.com. Just click on the Beyond the Podium in the News tab. Well, developing news tonight, Alabama's legislature passing legislation aimed to protect the IVF industry. So Adam is at that Now desk tonight with the update. Adam, what's going on?
So the Republican-led legislature passed the law overwhelmingly in both houses. Now, this comes after the state's Supreme Court ruled that frozen embryos should be considered children. Alabama's governor has also indicated that she will sign the legislation. It would protect IVF providers from both criminal and civil lawsuits. The state's attorney general's office already had said it had no intention of prosecuting IVF providers or families who use their services.
We want to give you a live look tonight from our nation's capital, where congressional leaders say a government shutdown could be avoided as soon as tonight. The House voted Thursday afternoon, or I should say this afternoon, on a stopgap bill that will kick the deadline to pass a full budget for the year further into March. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer expects his chamber to vote on the continuing resolution, by this evening.
I'm very glad the American people won't have to deal with the pain of a government shutdown. Even a partial shutdown would have threatened services for moms and children, would have hurt our veterans, would have hurt farmers and home buyers and law enforcement and so much more. Thankfully, we're on track to avoiding all of that.
Now, the government agencies that legislation affects will get another week of funding if the CR is passed by the Senate. But that's not the biggest budget news in Washington. They say they'll hold votes on 6 long-term appropriations bills next week that would fund the rest of the government. Leaders say they're still finalizing those bills. The new deadlines to pass bills to fund various sectors of the government are March 8th and 22nd.
Well, if you're feeling the pain of high interest rates, you'll want to pay close attention to the fresh inflation report released this morning. It's showing more evidence that the Federal Reserve's path to bring down inflation isn't as smooth as many would like it to be. Atra El-Nashar has more on what it means for you.
Inflation reports out this month reflecting bumps in the road on the way to relieving Americans of the painful burden of high inflation. The latest reading from the Commerce Department shows the inflation rate in January was lower than it was a year ago, but on a month-to-month basis was slightly higher.
What it is that prices in some areas are going up while prices in other areas are going down at the same time.
NerdWallet personal finance expert Sarah Rathner says more people are turning to credit cards to make ends meet, but it's a tricky time to rely on credit when interest rates raised by the Federal Reserve to fight inflation are so high.
We have heard that there is talk of interest rates eventually going down this year, but we just haven't seen that yet. And so everybody is waiting with bated breath.
Fed officials say they don't have enough confidence yet that inflation is on a sustained path toward their 2% target to start lowering rates. New York Fed President John Williams doesn't expect to hit that target until next year.
The risks to this forecast are two-sided. Inflation may surprise on the upside, or consumer strength, which has been a major driver of the robust growth we saw last year, may fade more quickly than I anticipate.
The Fed does meet again next month, but according to the popular CME Fed Watch tool, a likely rate cut isn't predicted until June at the earliest. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
The CDC now recommending another COVID shot for seniors. What doctors are saying about the possibility of moving to an annual vaccine.
And the 5th annual micro drone race happening this weekend at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. Look at that race and how you could win a little drone yourself.
And sunshine today, but I'm tracking some rain for your Friday. I'll have the details coming up. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
While the largest wildfire in Texas history continues to burn in the Panhandle, now they're getting snow, enough to jackknife this tractor-trailer on Interstate 40. Earlier, the winds got smoke all the way to El Paso, while they were also seeing clouds building ahead of a storm system. And we are not sure exactly where over the Rockies this photo was taken, but it was too beautiful not to share.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
Tonight, the CDC is now recommending seniors get another shot of the COVID-19 vaccine. Medical reporter Liz Bonus explains why this 6th shot may be just what the doctor orders.
Infectious disease specialists say this recommendation for older adults to get an additional dose of the COVID-19 vaccine is really about two things. The first is that immunity from the vaccine starts to fade in about 3 to 4 months. Advisors making this recommendation say it's now been about that long since the newest COVID-19 vaccine gave us a boost against the latest variants circulating of the coronavirus. The second is that we are just a few months away from the summer season. And if you think back,
as for the past, 3 to 4 years, we've had a summer surge of COVID right around July, late June, early July timeframe, and they're concerned about that surge as well.
if you're keeping track, that means you got 3 shots from the original vaccine, at least one of the bivalent booster, and one of the most recent new and improved COVID-19 vaccines, which means this new recommendation would mean shot number 6?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Yeah. But so far, it seems like every time a patient gets a booster, their immunity, is pushed back up into a protective range, and that's what we want.
If we don't get a summer surge, Dr. Blatt says, well, we'll likely go to an annual COVID-19 vaccine.
And that was Liz Bonus reporting. All right, so let's talk weather, because yesterday was obviously chaotic, very scary. Today, much different, but we have some new information about what happened yesterday.
Yeah, we do have an update on the tornado that was in Clark making its way into Madison County, an increase in strength as well as the path of the tornado. So right now, maximum wind speeds are now up to 130 miles per hour. Still an EF2 tornado, but that's up from 120 miles per hour. They were taking a look at some of the damage, and it did show that likely a lot stronger than they previously had estimated. Width was still 500 yards, but it actually traveled a few miles more, 21.3 mile path from southeast of Springfield all the way, making its way northeast of London into Clark County. Now, right now, it's a different story. It's quiet. We got high pressure just off to the east of us. Here's a look at our next weather maker. You can see showers developing through parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. That's going to bring some showers into our region during the day tomorrow. Nothing too widespread, but do plan on a few raindrops out there by late into the evening. So early into the morning in the 30s, back into the 40s. I'm thinking upper 40s, close to 50 with clouds by the afternoon. But by the evening, we will start to see some scattered showers developing across the region for us before we then start to see that clear out and temperatures climb for the weekend. So I'll have more on that coming up.
Well, this weekend is the 5th annual micro drone race at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. It is exactly what it sounds like. Registered drone pilots, they're going to race their drones in a series of races over, around, and through aircrafts in the museum.
Our pilots will wear a set of goggles, and as they control their drone, this is better known as a tiny whoop. As they control this, they receive the video feed from this camera in their goggles in real time. So they're able to fly as if they were sitting in the cockpit of the drone, which makes the experience for them extremely awesome.
I agree, it is extremely awesome. Well, spectators can watch that race, participate in hands-on activities. Visitors who come to watch the race can also enter a drawing to win a micro drone for themselves.
Well, knowing your Hollywood facts could actually win you some money. I don't think I'm going to win. I'm terrible at these things. Hollywood trivia, it is your chance to win. Just watch Your Day each day next week and look for a QR code to enter. Get the question right and you could be awarded the daily prize of a $100 prepaid debit card and be in a drawing for a $5,000 weekly winner. For complete contest rules, head to Dayton247now.com. Trivia begins on Monday.
Well, it's chilly winter-like out there for today, but tomorrow, which is the first day of March, meteorological spring, we do start to see those temperatures begin to climb for us. So back into the upper 40s tomorrow, but the weekend's looking really nice actually because we have some showers, also some clouds Friday. We'll start to see those clouds break apart a bit for our Saturday, making it into the upper 50s, and then notice climbing upper 60s Sunday, Monday, high temperature 70 degrees. It does cool off a little bit by the middle, especially end of next week. We will start to see some chillier air make an arrival, but spring-like weather will return. So for tonight, we will drop into the upper 20s with a mostly clear sky, so not quite as cold as we have been. But coming up, I'm going to take a look at that weekend forecast, what we're expecting into that weekend, and our look at our 7-day coming up.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeff Schmidt Auto Group.
Well, the weekend is looking pretty nice for us with climbing temperatures, so warmer than we will be tomorrow, as well as, of course, what we had for today. Still a little cool for Saturday. We'll start out with clouds, but those clouds will clear by Saturday afternoon with temperatures in the mid-50s. And then heading into our Sunday, it's looking great. Sunshine, temperatures mid to upper 60s, so perfect for maybe some grilling out, enjoying the outdoors, enjoying meteorological spring, which does begin again tomorrow, March 1st, with temperatures feeling like March and in the upper 50s, but we eventually do see 60s return, as well as some showers by next week, next Tuesday and Wednesday.
70.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know, Monday's looking good.
This is going to be amazing. This weekend looks amazing.
Yeah.
By the
really
way, I
does.
won't be here on Monday.
I was going to say, yeah, well, enjoy it. You can tell us all about it.
Oh, I will.
We'll
trust
tell you how
me.
great it is being indoors. No, but that looks fantastic. That's going to be a nice change of pace. Nice
Definitely.
little preview of spring.
Of course. Yeah.
It'll be really nice.
All right, well, that does it for us. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're over on Fox 45 next. We'll see you there. Good night.